Steam rose from the kettle like a ghost she knew. Marjorie Blake stared at the reflection on her a silver face, 56 haloed by refrigerator light. Prestige lingered on magazine covers, dusty and framed. Silence sat beside her like an uninvited guest. She plated a perfect omelet for no one at all. Knife taps echoed against marble, crisp and hollow. Her rewards glimmered like constellations too far away. She tasted, nodded, and felt nothing in return. Flavor without meaning turned to air on her tongue. The city murmured beyond the glass like slow rain. Portland's nightlights freckled the river in gold. Somewhere, laughter pooled in bars she never entered. She lifted the window, and the cold came in. It smelled of wet leaves, smoke, and unanswered questions. Her phone buzzed with invitations she would decline. A charity gala, a reunion, a judging appearance. They were variations on a theme of applause. Applause had become a shell around her ribs. Inside, the echo repeated, then faded, then nothing. She opened a cookbook and a memory fell. A note in her mother's slanted, hopeful hand. Feed people you love, even when they're strangers. Marjorie traced the ink like a map home. Home refused to appear, a blank on paper. She ate at the counter, back curved like punctuation. The sentence of her life awaited its verb. She waited too, pretending to read old recipes. Outside, sirens stitched the night with red thread. Inside, a kettle sighed itself back to sleep. When the kettle cooled, she put on her coat, a long, rain-dark wool that smelled like winter. No destination, just a tug beneath the sternum. She stepped into the corridor of humming lights. Downstairs, the city exhaled, and she followed. The restaurant door chimed a familiar minor key. Her name still crowned the window in tasteful gold. Inside, copper pans hung like medals on parade. Younger hands danced where hers had once ruled. Heat moved like music, confident and bright. Chef Blake, a sous chef, asked, wiping his brow. He was 20-something, quick, kind, and busy. She waved, a cameo in her own museum. Just passing through, she said, trying to smile. The room kept cooking, unfazed by her ghost. She watched a woman reduce stock to velvet. At the pass, plates lined up like tiny stages. Each received a spotlight of sauce, a flourish. Perfection blossomed without her permission anymore. Relief and loss braided tight in her chest. An old server hugged her, smelling of citrus. We still make your lemon thyme tart, he said. She nodded, grateful and oddly Legacy felt like a coat that didn't fit. Too heavy, too proud, not quite hers now. She wandered into the back alley's cold breath. Garbage lids clanged in the wind like cymbals. Rain stippled puddles with restless fingertips. Her reflection wobbled, then tore into ripples. What remains when the stage forgets your steps? From the street, laughter burst like warm bread. She remembered burning her first caramel, swearing softly. How hunger for mastery became armor and prison. How applause can't hold a hand at night. How silence asks better questions than critics. She touched the door, but didn't go back. Instead, she walked until the city blurred, past murals, bus stops, and a quiet bridge. A new scent hooked her attention soup, earthy and bright, calling her name. Under a freeway, lanterns swayed like small suns. A pop-up line formed beside folding tables. Steam rose from a battered stockpot, generous and brave. Voices murmured gratitude. Names traded like gifts. The soup's perfume stitched carrots to hope. Marjorie stopped at the edge, unsure of rules. A woman in a beanie ladled with rhythm. Need a bowl? She asked, eyes kind, focused. Marjorie shook her head, words snagging shyly. Can I help? Finally escaped her. Gloves are there, the woman said, smiling sideways. Stir, slow, serve, steady, and look people in. I'm Alma, she added, adjusting the burner's sigh. That pot's lentil with cumin and lemon. The scent felt like a story she remembered. Gloves on. Marjorie found the ladle's heartbeat. The line moved, each face its own atlas. A veteran with a limp, a violin case, a mother with a stroller, blanket tucked carefully. Names tasted different than tickets and reservations. Thank you, chef, someone said, reading her eyes. She looked up, surprised the title still floated. I'm just Marjorie, she answered, almost a plea. Just Marjorie feeds fine, the man replied, grinning. Steam haloed them both in gentle absolution. A gust shoved rain under the canvas edge. Marjorie stepped closer, shielding the flame's patience. Her wrists remembered kitchens, her heart learned softness. Alma nodded, approving the quiet choreography. Service without spotlight, heat without performance. When the pot scraped bottom, silence gathered. Alma set another to simmer, onions surrendering. Marjorie exhaled something she'd held for years, not applause, something warmer, low and steady. Come back tomorrow, Alma asked. Just practical. Marjorie opened her mouth. The truth stepped out. Yes, she said, and the word felt sturdy. The freeway hummed like a tired lullaby. Rain softened to a thoughtful, silver drizzle. She walked home, tasting lemon on the wind. Morning brought a sky the color of pewter. Marjorie chopped carrots in her quiet kitchen. Each slice landed like a metronome for courage. She packed onions, beans, herbs, and bread, then followed yesterday's scent back to purpose. The camp buzzed with wet boot energy. Alma pointed, stations there, we'll plate outside. Marjorie lit a burner, coaxed flame awake, oil shimmered, garlic whispered, cumin bloomed kindly. Heads turned, noses lifted. Conversation sweetened at first. The volunteers watched her cautiously. Expensive coat, polished voice, a practiced distance. But she shed the coat, rolled her sleeves. Sweat and steam baptized her into belonging. The soup thickened into something like trust. She tasted, adjusted, with lemon and love. Perfect, Alma said, tapping the ladle twice. They served, elbows bumping in easy rhythm. Warm enough, more bread. Tell me your name. Questions braided dignity into every portion. A boy in a red hoodie lingered. He studied the pot like a future map. Marjorie handed him the first bowl. His smile was shy, then wider. True, best smell in the world, he said. As the line thinned, Rain paused, listening. Marjorie's shoulders ached in the oldest way. Work, honest and immediate, without curtain call. Her chest felt roomier, windows opening inward. She was feeding strangers and meeting herself. When they finished, Alma stacked the empty tubs. You cook like someone who remembers hunger, she said. Marjorie nodded, a memory flickering behind ribs. Maybe I forgot that I remembered, she answered. Alma grinned. Tomorrow's stew needs a captain. The next evening, the tables multiplied gently. Word had traveled, the air brighter with expectation. Marjorie sharpened knives that weren't quite hers. Metal kissed stone, a promise kept slowly. Onions lined up like soldiers learning kindness. He introduced himself as Frank, a bad fall, medical bills, and goodbyes. He cradled the bowl like a spare part. Too old to start over, he murmured. Too brave not to, Marjorie said back. Lydia arrived with a stroller, wheels squeaking softly. Her baby yawned, fists like tiny pastries. She asked for extra bread, eyes apologizing. Marjorie slipped to pieces, conspiratorial and warm. No apology required where hunger sits, she said. The volunteers learned names like secret ingredients. Each story seasoned the pot a shade deeper. Laughter popped like pepper. Tears salted the broth. Human recipes, improvised, served hot and honest. Marjorie listened more than she spoke tonight. Between servings, Alma mapped a small plan. Galley kitchen in a vacant warehouse nearby. We could move inside before storms get mean. Marjorie felt leadership nudge her steady spine. I'll call some folks, she said. Very certain. Frank offered to fix a rattling cart. Lydia folded napkins into paper lilies. The camp shifted from line to community. Marjorie watched purpose set the table. The city's hum softened into accompaniment as lanterns dimmed. The river breathed fog. Marjorie tucked stray hair behind one ear. Inside, a pilot light she'd lost returned. Outside, rain rehearsed on distant roofs. Tomorrow would need more than soup, maybe walls. The warehouse smelled of dust, iron, and potential. Marjorie stood in the hollow space, hands on hips, imagining where tables would go, where warmth could live. Her eyes followed shafts of light through broken windows. She could already hear the murmur of hungry laughter. By noon, volunteers arrived carrying boxes and hope. Old burners, dented pots, mismatched chairs, treasures. Reborn. Someone plugged in a radio, music filling the emptiness. Marjorie organized the chaos like she once did a kitchen. Structure and compassion, two sides of her same coin. She wrote the day's menu in chalk on the wall. Vegetable stew with thyme and courage. Alma teased, smiling. Marjorie grinned. Humor tasted like seasoning after drought. The ingredients were modest, but the room felt rich. Every chopped carrot seemed to hum with meaning. When the first bowl was served, silence hovered. Then came sighs, laughter, and clinking of spoons. Frank nodded in approval, mouthful, eyes shining. This, he said, is what home smells like. Marjorie blinked away tears she didn't intend to shed. As evening settled, string lights crowned the rafters. The warehouse glowed golden against the rainy street. People lingered longer than hunger required, talking softly. Alma poured coffee. the cheap kind that warms souls. Outside, Portland looked almost tender through the mist. Marjorie sat on an overturned crate, watching everything move. She wasn't orchestrating perfection, she was living it. Each face, each story became an ingredient in belonging. It wasn't applause she heard now, but gratitude breathing, and for the first time, she didn't need to answer. Before leaving, she wrote a note on the door. In this place, food is only the beginning. Her handwriting trembled slightly, both proud and unsure. She turned off the lights but carried them inside. The recipe of simplicity had finally found her. The next morning began with the smell of onions. Marjorie sliced them slowly, eyes wet for many reasons. The rhythm brought back her father's small kitchen, the smell of cornbread and coal smoke intertwined. Memory was its own kind of hunger, unending and tender. Her father had worked nights fixing elevators downtown. He'd come home tired but humming gospel under his breath. Marjorie remembered the nights they shared leftover stew, her promise to become someone who'd never know hunger. Now she understood he'd meant something deeper than food. She brought a photo of him to the warehouse wall, pinned beside recipe notes. It became a quiet guardian. Alma noticed, touching the frame with a flour-dusted hand. "Family cooks with us even when they're gone," she said. Marjorie smiled, throat tight with unshed warmth. Later, Frank arrived, limping but carrying donated utensils. Lydia followed with extra blankets for the coming storm. Each act of giving layered kindness like pastry dough. The kitchen filled with chatter, laughter, and shared effort. Marjorie realized healing could simmer quietly in company. That afternoon, she burned a batch of rice. Instead of frustration, she laughed until her sides ached. Failure felt almost holy when no one judged it. Alma teased, "Even saints scorch a pot sometimes." Laughter echoed longer than smoke lingered. As evening shadows gathered, Marjorie walked home slowly. The air smelled of rain and roasted garlic from diners. She passed her old restaurant glowing with evening guests. For a moment, jealousy flickered, then dissolved like sugar. Purpose had replaced prestige, and it tasted better. That night, she wrote a letter she'd never send. "To Dad, I finally understand your kind of full." She placed it beneath her pillow and turned off the light. The rain kept rhythm against the glass, soft and steady. Peace, she thought, is the flavor time learns last. Storm warnings flashed across every radio and phone. By dusk, the streets turned to trembling mirrors. Marjorie tightened her scarf and walked anyway, her boots slicing puddles, her coat absorbing sky. The city was alive, crying and forgiving at once. The warehouse roof began to leak in thin silver threads. Buckets clanged beneath them like percussion. Alma cursed softly while sealing the edges with tape. Marjorie stirred soup, whispering to keep the flame awake. Steam rose like prayer from the battered pot. More people came than they could handle that night. Families, loners, and those just lost in the storm. Wet shoes lined the entrance, dripping onto cardboard. Marjorie moved between tables with a towel and smile. No one left hungry, though the food stretched thin. When the last bowl emptied, exhaustion hung heavy. Alma leaned against the counter, eyes half closed. "Tomorrow," she muttered, "we rebuild this circus." Marjorie squeezed her shoulder, grounding both. Tomorrow was a promise worth keeping. Back home, her apartment felt colder than usual. The walls echoed, missing the chorus of voices. She opened the window. Rain washed against her skin. For the first time, she didn't mind being soaked. The city's heartbeat synchronized with her own. She spent the night drafting messages to old contacts, chefs, suppliers, and even rivals. She wrote them all. "We need ingredients, stoves, hands," her plea began. By morning, replies flooded in faster than the rain. The old network remembered her, and they answered. As the storm cleared, dawn shimmered on wet streets. Trucks arrived, filled with food, blankets, and hope. Marjorie stood in the warehouse doorway, eyes shining. The city had shown up, messy and magnificent. Sometimes the sky must break before it blesses. The repaired warehouse smelled of new beginnings. Fresh paint covered the scars where leaks once cried. Marjorie lit the stoves one by one, metal sighing awake. Flames flickered in rhythm with her breathing. This was not charity, it was rebirth in motion. Alma pinned a handwritten sign near the entrance. "Community kitchen. Everyone welcome, no questions." People read it, hesitated, then stepped inside shyly. The air filled with clatter, aroma, and unspoken gratitude. Marjorie felt her pulse blend into the kitchen's hum. They cooked more than soup now: bread, beans, laughter. Frank taught a teenager to fix a broken fan. Lydia helped design a corner for mothers and kids. Music drifted from a cheap speaker, dancing through steam. Life had rhythm again, and she kept perfect time. A journalist arrived, pen poised, eyes curious but kind. He asked, "Why this, after all your success?" Marjorie wiped her hands, thinking before she spoke. "Because success fed my ego," she said, "but not my heart." He nodded, scribbling truth into his notebook. The article appeared 2 days later, nothing glamorous, just faces, names, and the smell of stew in print. But donations poured in, strangers mailing spices, checks, love. Marjorie laughed, overwhelmed, humbled by abundance. Kindness multiplied faster than she could stir it. That night, as they locked the doors, Alma whispered, "You've started a fire that won't go out." Marjorie smiled, watching smoke curl toward the moon. "I didn't start it," she said. "I just remembered warmth." Outside, Portland glowed like a hearth in the rain. She walked home slowly, the air sweet with woods. The city's lights blurred through her tears, gentle and gold. She thought of her father, of hunger, of grace. Purpose was no longer an idea but a living thing, and it burned softly, endlessly, inside her chest. The following week, the kitchen buzzed louder than usual. Cameras blinked red dots, microphones hovered near steam. Marjorie stirred calmly, aware of every lens but unbothered. She'd promised herself this moment would honor others. The story was never hers alone anymore. The reporter asked questions over the clatter of ladles. "How does it feel to give back to your city?" Marjorie smiled, tasting the stew before answering. "It's not giving back," she said. "It's joining in." Around her, volunteers kept cooking like a choir. He focused on Frank repairing a rusted stove, on Lydia laughing as her baby tugged her sleeve, on Alma directing traffic with a ladle like a baton. Every frame captured the music of ordinary redemption. Marjorie watched, quietly proud and endlessly moved. When the segment aired, phones rang non-stop. Viewers asked how to help, where to donate, when to visit. Restaurants offered leftovers. Schools sent students to volunteer. The city responded as if awakening from a long sleep. Marjorie realized Portland's heart had only needed stirring. That night, Alma poured them both cheap coffee again. "To fame," she toasted, smirking over the cup. Marjorie laughed, shaking her head in gentle protest. "No," she said softly, "to family you choose." Steam curled upward, a benediction between friends. After the crew left, the kitchen felt strangely still. The pots gleamed, the air heavy with echoes. Marjorie walked the aisles, fingertips trailing on tables. Every dent and stain told a different victory. Imperfection had finally become her favorite ingredient. Before turning off the lights, she looked once more. In the quiet, she heard the hum of full hearts. The place felt alive, more than any restaurant ever had. She whispered, "Thank you," to no one and everyone, then stepped outside, her shadow dissolving into the rain. Morning light slanted through the warehouse windows softly. Marjorie stirred oatmeal for a smaller, quieter crowd. The storm had passed, but calm felt temporary. A man approached, holding a business card nervously. He smelled faintly of espresso and expensive leather. "I own Harbor and Hearth downtown," he began carefully. "Your story inspired me. How about a partnership?" He spoke of brand synergy, cooking classes, prestige. Marjorie smiled politely, her heartbeat whispering no. The kitchen's hum behind her was answer enough. She glanced at Frank fixing a broken table leg, at Lydia playing peekaboo with her drowsy baby, at Alma ladling soup with the ease of faith. These were her investors now paid in purpose. Success had changed its currency forever. "I'm honored," she said gently, "but I'm staying here." His smile faltered, confusion wrinkling his perfect suit. He nodded, pocketing the offer like a lost thought. Outside, his car purred away into the mist. Marjorie exhaled and returned to her people. Alma teased, "You just turned down a small fortune." Marjorie chuckled, sprinkling cinnamon like punctuation. "I already have one," she said without irony. The room laughed, warm as the rising scent. They ate together, rich in things money can't buy. That afternoon, she taught the boy in the red hoodie how to slice safely without fear of the blade. He listened carefully, eyes bright with focus. "Cooking's mostly patience," she told him softly. He nodded, repeating, "Patience and salt." As night fell, Marjorie washed dishes in peace. The water shimmered like melted gold under light. Her reflection in it looked older, freer, whole. Outside, the city's neon blinked in slow gratitude. Inside, her hands still moved with the rhythm of care. The next day brought an unexpected visitor to the kitchen. Sylvia, her former sous chef, stepped through the doorway. Designer coat, perfect hair, perfume like ambition. Marjorie Blake in an apron again, she said, smirking. Didn't think you'd fall this far. Marjorie set down her knife, calm and steady. Sylvia, she greeted, voice kind but guarded. The room fell silent except for simmering soup. Fall, she repeated, tasting the word slowly. Feels more like landing where I belong. Sylvia's laughter rang sharp as glass on tile. You could still be famous, teaching on TV. Marjorie smiled faintly, stirring without hurry. I already teach, she said, but my students eat. Silence followed, thick with unspoken truths. Alma crossed her arms, protective and unimpressed. Everyone's welcome here, she said, voice cool. But we don't serve arrogance, it doesn't digest well. Sylvia blinked, taken aback by the honesty. For once, words failed the woman who lived by them. Marjorie handed her a bowl and a spoon. Sit, eat, maybe you'll taste what I found. Sylvia hesitated, then accepted without speaking. Steam rose between them like fragile truce. Old wounds began to cool in the warmth. They ate together in slow, thoughtful silence. Each bite softened years of pride and distance. Sylvia's eyes glistened, regret shimmering quietly. You look happy, she said finally. Maybe happiness was always this simple, Marjorie replied. When she left, the kitchen felt lighter again. Alma leaned close, whispering, you handled that with grace. Marjorie exhaled a long breath she'd held for years. Sometimes, feeding the past is how you forgive it. And she meant every syllable of that truth. Snow fell that December, like blessings from tired clouds. Marjorie planned a Christmas dinner for the entire block. Volunteers hung lanterns, strung garlands, arranged borrowed tables. The warehouse became a cathedral of warmth and laughter. Every smell carried memory, hope, and second chances. Frank roasted turkeys in borrowed ovens all afternoon. Lydia baked pies that filled the air with cinnamon. Children drew stars on napkins, their crayons squeaking joy. Marjorie moved through it all like a quiet conductor. Her orchestra of souls played in perfect harmony. When the doors opened, the line stretched down the street. Strangers hugged, neighbors greeted, laughter echoed freely. Steam fogged the windows until the world outside vanished. For one night, no one was forgotten or unseen. Portland itself seemed to pause and listen. Marjorie stood at the head table, trembling slightly. Tonight, she began, voice breaking like dawn, we prove that love multiplies when it's shared. Applause rippled through the crowd like wind through wheat. She bowed her head, tears mixing with gratitude. They ate for hours, stories traded like gifts. Music rose from an old guitar someone found. Children danced between chairs, hands sticky with pie. Laughter rolled through the rafters like thunderous grace. Even the walls seemed to breathe with joy. As midnight neared, snow dusted the windowsills white. Marjorie watched Alma twirl, laughing with Frank's cane. She felt the invisible threads binding them all tight. Once strangers, now stitched together by simple kindness. Family, she realized, was never about blood. When the final candle flickered low and sighed out, the room settled into a holy kind of silence. Marjorie closed her eyes and whispered thanks for the hunger that once haunted her heart and for the love that came to feed it. The new year arrived softly, without fireworks or noise. Marjorie walked through the kitchen, touching every surface. Pots hung like medals earned through compassion. Each dent, each stain told a story of giving. She felt reverence rise like morning steam. Frank greeted her with a proud smile that gleamed. I got hired at the auto shop down the block. He waved his hands, greased under the fingernails. Lydia joined them, baby now toddling on chubby legs. I found an apartment, she said, eyes shimmering. Marjorie hugged them both tightly, words failing beautifully. Their victories tasted sweeter than any dessert she'd known. Gratitude filled her lungs, rich and effortless. I didn't feed you, she whispered. We fed each other. And in that truth, her heart finally rested easy. Later, she walked alone by the Willamette River. Boats drifted slowly under bridges glowing gold. The wind carried laughter from distant cafes. For the first time, she felt entirely present in silence. Peace, she realized, was not quiet but complete. Returning to the warehouse, she found Alma cleaning up. Together they mopped, whistling off-key, shoulders touching. No cameras, no headlines, no need for applause, just friendship, work, and a shared sacred rhythm. They moved like two notes in the same gentle song. Before leaving, Marjorie pinned a final photo on the wall. It showed the Christmas dinner, faces lit from within. Beneath it, she wrote in chalk, we were here, we mattered. She stepped back, smiling at the imperfect symmetry. Some art, she thought, is meant to stay unfinished. When the lights dimmed, she lingered by the door. The scent of time still clung to her coat. Outside, the city whispered its soft goodnight. Inside, gratitude lingered, thick as honeyed air, and she knew she'd never truly leave this place. Spring arrived on the heels of gentle rain. Tulips pushed through cracks beside the warehouse steps. Marjorie sat on the curb, coffee steaming in her palms. The city hummed with a calm, confident pulse. Portland had changed, and so had she. A reporter revisited for a follow-up story. He found her sweeping the entrance, hair streaked silver. "Still cooking?" he asked, smiling like an old friend. "Always," she answered, "but now it's the soul's recipe." He nodded, capturing her peace in silent admiration. After he left, she wandered inside to clean. Every corner carried ghosts she now called blessings. Her father's photo watched from the wall like sunlight. Alma hummed near the stove, stirring something sweet. The air smelled of cinnamon, cloves, and legacy. Marjorie sat to write one last note for herself. "I once searched for the perfect flavor of life, but I learned it's not found, it's shared." She folded the paper and slipped it in her pocket. The words felt warm, as if already understood. Later, she opened the doors for evening service. The first guest was the boy in the red hoodie, older now. He carried a resume and a shy, proud grin. "I'm starting culinary school," he said breathlessly. Marjorie laughed, tears bright as daylight. "Come by tomorrow," she said, voice steady but soft. "I'll teach you the soup that started it all." He nodded, hope shining like polished silver. Outside, twilight painted the sky in melted gold. Inside, her life's light burned brighter than ever. As night fell, she turned off the last switch slowly. The room glowed in memory long after dark. Her voice echoed softly in the empty hall. "I spent years chasing flavor, but love fed me whole." Under Portland's lights, her soul finally rested full.